Hi everybody, my name's Bob. I have the day off today. My roommate is not here, so I was bored and decided to make a little video. This is mostly just testing this setup to see if maybe I can do some of these in the future with some real cooking. Today we're just doing pancakes, and we're doing the easiest pancakes in the world. These are Trustees pancakes. What is great about these guys is they only need water. Don't have to have milk and eggs and all the other stuff, and they make a very good pancake. Now normally with this 1 cup of mix, you do 2/3 of a cup of water. Now for me, I prefer a little bit thinner pancake, so I've increased my water to 3/4 of a cup. I've already got my pan heating up. This is a cast iron pan. You can use non-stick, you can use stick, or regular stick, or regular steel pan. But I like my little cast iron skillet here. For a non-stick or a steel pan, you'd probably want to use pan. For my cast iron, I prefer to use a Crisco. And my pan's already getting pretty good and hot here, so I'm going to go ahead and spread this on and let it start to kind of form a little bit of a film. Alright, that's good. So I'm going to add my mix to my mixing bowl, and let's go ahead and just move this stuff out of the way. Here's everything I need, by the way, is my mix, 3/4 of a cup of water. This is for scooping the mix after I get done with it. This is spatula. This is for making my mix. Is whisk. You can use fork, you can use whatever you have on hand. I like to use whisk just because I have them and they work great. So let's go ahead and move this stuff out of the way like I originally intended. You can tell I hadn't done one of these before, huh? Okay. So we're going to add our water to our mix. Simple, easy peasy. Stick this whisk in there and start giving it a good stir. Alright, scoop that stuff off the sides. I want to get this pretty good and fully integrated. This stuff is pretty forgiving as far as over mixing. So you really don't have to worry too much about over mixing this stuff. And especially if you add a little bit of extra water, it mixes in and integrates really easy. If I'd done 2/3 of a cup, I'd still be going at it, but it looks like it's fairly ready to go. Now this stuff, you want to go ahead and rinse it off right now, because once it starts to dry, it turns into this concretey type substance. So if you'd excuse me just 1 second, I'm gonna rinse this off. Alright, thank you very much for waiting. It's especially important with a whisk, because whisks are a tremendous pain in the butt to clean. We have, this sucker is pretty darn warm. It actually may be a little bit too warm. I have a little thermometer. I can tell what temperature I'm at. I'm at 500 degrees. I'm way too hot. But once we start putting stuff on here, it's going to cool down a bit. I'm going to drop my temperature. I was on about medium. I'm dropping it to about medium low. Normally, if I started at medium, I'll be okay, because I would have had pancakes on here already. And when you do get your food on there, it really drops the temperature of the pan. So I'm going to go ahead and, this is a 1/4 cup scoop. That's about the perfect size pancake for me. I would normally do 3 of these at a time, but since we're filming, I'm going to do 2. There's less chance of me completely screwing this up. My batters are a little lumpy still. I'm okay with that. And I may have actually put a little bit more than 2/3 of a cup in there this time. Or 3/4 of a cup, excuse me. Because they are a little bit runnier than normal. But we'll do just fine, especially since we're only doing 2. Now, what you got to wait for is you'll see these edges to start to dry up. Right now, they're still pretty wet. And when I go to flip, I will show you here in a minute. Now, if you've got this cast iron, is way too heavy for me to try to do a manual flip. So we're going to use the spatula. If I was using my non-stick pan, I'd just flip one at a time. But my non-stick pans don't have quite the surface area that this does, so I can only do about 1 at a time, so I end up running 2 pans. And I just don't feel like running two pans right now. I really like this cast iron. This is a Lodge cast iron, so it look like a griddle skillet. I know you can get these at Cracker Barrel, because I believe that is where the very nice person who bought this for me got it from. I don't have a problem with nonstick. I like my nonstick too. It's just for pancakes. This, for me, is the best setup. Alright, so you see how the edges is still real wet here, but the edges have dried out. You know, they're not quite starting to brown, because a lot of people say wait for this to start to turn color a little bit. Sometimes if you do that, the bottom will already be too dark. So you kind of have to figure out for your stove, your pan. And look at that. That is absolutely beautiful. Alright. Now this one, since it's been out on the edge of this pan, the edge of this pan is not as hot as the center, because my burner, I've got electric, and electric really only heats up where it touches. So this is wider than the burner, so out here at the edge is probably not as hot, so you probably see when I flip it, there'll be a little bit lighter color towards one side. Yeah, this is the side that was out at the edge, and it is a lighter color because it hadn't cooked quite as much as this has in the center. That's why when I flip them, I try to flip this outside edge towards the center, so you get more heat here, and it will cook this side of it a little bit more, and you'll get more even cooking across the entire pancake. Now what I have forgotten to do is go get a plate, so we are just going to go with handy dandy paper plate. I'll get a real plate before I eat this. Now after you flip them, they don't really take too long to finish cooking. See that? It's just about done. This one should be done. Oh yeah, look at that. That's pretty. That is pretty. Alright, so that one's done. We're going to move this one to the center. Give it just a minute. Now, if you're cooking a large batch of these, what I'd advise you to do is get a real plate, not a paper plate, and a towel, a good tea towel. And what you do is the real plate is going to help you hold heat. If you can pre-warm it a little bit, I've got a toaster oven. Put it on real low for 2 or 3 minutes just to get it slightly warm. You don't want it hot, because you know those plates are not really meant to be heated up. You know, just to where they're warm, like warm plate like you get in a Mexican restaurant. Well, not quite as hot as what you get in a Mexican restaurant. But that'll help keep your pancakes warm, and when you throw that towel over it, it'll help hold the heat in. So by the time you get done with your last pancake, your first pancake is not ice cold. So let's see. Let's throw just a little bit. A little bit more of this Crisco on there. I haven't added anything to this towel. This is just that initial scoop that I did. And you can see how the edges haven't really... this is all dried up, but the edges are still pretty wet. I'm taking some of that stuff from the edges, bringing it towards the center. So I've got a nice, good, smooth coating. If you're doing a non-stick pan or a regular steel pan, you're going to want to spray your Pam in between pancakes, because your previous pancake has probably soaked up most of the non-stick application that you put on before. So just doing the same thing we did before. About 1/4 cup. Put this one a little more towards the center this time. Try to keep it away from that edge. And it looks like it's going to spread down that way. Anyway, it's part of the problem with these electric burners, and they start to deform over time. This range is pretty old. It's probably at least, I'd say it's at least 15 years old. So these burners have all kind of deformed, and this kind of tilts it to slope downhill a little bit. Not really much I can do for it beyond replacing all these burners, and honestly it's not big enough of a deal for me to really care. I don't like electric ranges, but it's what I've got, it's what I work with. So if you had a gas range, the way the gas burners work, when you're even if you've got a pan that's slightly wider, that gas will hit the bottom of the pan and spread out, or the flame at the bottom of the pan and spread out, so you actually get a fairly even heat across most of the pan. So even if it's, you know, your burner's only this wide, that flame will fan out and actually touch the edges, so you actually get a heat all the way around. Now we've got it's dried out along the edges. I'm going to flip it over. Isn't that pretty? All right. This one's about ready too. All right, and I kind of messed that flip up a little bit. Now, if you put too much oil in your pan, you'll start to get this kind of I don't know, spider web pattern coming out. That's when you know that you've got a little bit too much oil in your pan. It happens, for me, it happens more with a non-stick, because non-stick really doesn't need much oil on it. But to get a good coverage with that non-stick, the oil tends to bead up, so you end up having to put a little bit more than you would normally would, and you end up with a little spider pattern. There's nothing wrong with a spider pattern on a pancake. It just doesn't look quite as pretty. Now, it's hot. And I'll go ahead and show you temperature of my pan. It's now down to 478. We are still a little bit on the warm side. But if you come here where, yeah, it's down to 404 where I've actually been cooking. So cast iron is, a lot of people say cast iron is the greatest at retaining heat. It isn't. There's a lot of, it sucks heat out. It likes to give up its heat, which is kind of good because it means it cooks better. And it's, you know, doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get a nice even heat either, as can be attested by, you can see when I flip these pancakes that one side's a little lighter than the other, or one end is lighter than the other. That's the one that's out towards the edge. But cast iron's still really great to cook with. It's just a pain in the butt to clean sometimes, depending on what you're cooking. Like if I do stir fry in cast iron, I have a good old time trying to clean that sucker. So I normally will, for stir fry, will use a steel pan because I can actually scrub a steel pan. You really don't want to scrub cast iron too hard. Or I'll use non-stick, but you don't get the right texture with stir fry on a non-stick. It still makes good food. It's just, I prefer it in a steel pan. That's just me, and I'm rambling on trying to fill in time because this video is starting to get a little boring. I'm guessing for you guys. And all the edges are still wet. We're gonna have to wait a minute. I've tried a few different of these mixes. Krusty's really, it's a very unfortunate name because it sounds like something for you use for old cars to get rid of rust, but it's a very, very good pancake. And what I really like about it is you only need water, because when I make pancakes, it's usually like this morning, very impromptu. I didn't plan to do this. I just all of a sudden was, you know, I woke up, was sitting there trying to figure out what I wanted for breakfast, and decided I want pancakes. So I look in the fridge. I don't have, well, actually I do have a little bit of milk. I don't have quite enough to have made pancakes. I have a couple of eggs, but you know, a lot of times I don't. There were times in the past before I started using this stuff where I'd go, okay, I want pancakes. Look in the fridge, there's no milk, or there's no eggs, or butter, or you know, there's all sorts of weird stuff some of these mixes will ask for. So, you know, I'd be missing one or two of those ingredients, which means you can't really make pancakes. But this stuff makes a very delicious pancake. It cooks very well. I mean, you can see how beautiful these guys are coming out. And all I need is water. As long as I've got a box of this stuff and a tap, pay my water bill, I've got pancakes anytime I want to. And you can hear, it's probably kind of hard for you guys to see, but it's kind of got a little bit of that spider web effect going on. I don't know if you can really see this. I'm probably fogging up the camera, but it's not super apparent on this one, but I had a little bit too much oil or grease in that one spot. And now for those of you wondering why I'm using Crisco instead of olive oil or something like that, for cast iron pans, for me, that just works best. You know, Used to be everybody used lard on them. I don't know if y'all can't really see, but right now, but I've already got big enough of a gut. I don't need any additional help growing it. So there's just a little bit more on here. I think we got enough for about one more pancake going. So Crisco works great for me. Olive oil doesn't really have the it tends to smoke at high heats. So the kind of heat we're dealing with this pan, especially with what it can actually get up to. See, I'm still running this pan a little bit hot, but it's cooking the pancakes very well. Now, I know a lot of you don't have a thermometer. I just put my hand over here and go, okay, that's hot. You're done. If you're worried that you may have your heat up a little too high or a little too low, what you can do is when you first make your batter, just get a little bit of it and make you a little mini pancake. That's it. That way you're not wasting a lot of batter, and you can see if it ends up burning on the bottom before you get the edges nice, or if it's about ready to go. And also, remember, like I said, when you start out, your pan's going to be a little bit hotter than when you finish. So if it's a little too hot, just back down your temp. I'm down to between medium, low, and medium now. Back down your temp a little bit, and try again. That's all you really got to do. Let's go ahead and get the last little bit of this stuff. Get that one last pancake. This will probably be the dog pancake, because I do have a dog. Actually, it'll be split between the dog and the cat, because I got a cat that eats like a dog. He'll eat things the dog won't. It's pretty ridiculous. Alright, that is done. Oop, that sucker is ready to flip. See? Nice and pretty. And when it looks like that, you know you got your temperature right. Now, if you got your temperature a little low, sometimes it'll just take forever to cook. And I don't know, it's been a while since I did one that my temperature was too low. I can't really remember all the downsides to it. I'm sure you can look them up, and if I was a better YouTuber, I would probably have looked all that up beforehand. Who knows, maybe I'll do another video at some point. And that was really dumb. And you see that? Tipped it instead of just flipping it. There we go. And you see me getting lazy and kind of messing some stuff up now, which does tend to happen. Now, we are right at 18 minutes, and that was start to finish, me turning on, less than 20 minutes to cook pancakes. That's it. This mix is great. As long as you take your time, first couple of times you do it, it'll probably take you 30-45 minutes. That's not a big deal. I have done this in as little as 10 minutes. When I'm not talking on camera, I can get this done in 10 to 15 minutes. So, there you go. It's easy to do. It's a great thing for dads on Saturday morning, or, college kid and you had a girl stay over the night before, feed her breakfast. So. Alright, that is it. My pancakes are done. I am going to go get me a real plate, stack these guys up. One thing before I let you go, if you're doing cast iron, before you turn this sucker off, go ahead and give it a nice little light coating. This is very, very light coating. Alright, your pan should already be seasoned. But this little very light coating, it's starting to soak through into my fingers. This little light coating right here, before I turn it off, this will kind of bake into the pan. It's still hot at this point. This will bake into the pan, and the next time that I go to use it, it will still be fairly non-stick. Now, cast iron, you generally, when you're cooking with it, if you don't really mess it up and have a bunch of stuff sticking to it, this is all you need to do to clean it. You give it a good wipe down, and you oil it. The heat has killed any bacteria. You don't have anything particulates or anything stuck to it. You're done. When you go to reheat it the next time, it's self-cleaning. Uh, that's one of the great things about cast iron. Don't really have to go and scrub a dub on it. So that's it for me, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you didn't, leave me a comment. Let me know what I did wrong, because how am I going to know to fix it if you don't tell me? Y'all have a good night, or good day, or good morning, or whatever it is. I've completely messed up that line. And get out there and get cooking. It's really not that difficult.